what version of Classic WoW should you play? Well, the version you feel like it. I am not your dad, but there are some Classic WoW versions that are more equal than others, and that's what I want to talk about today. What are the most popular? How did the numbers change after Anniversary got settled down? And a more important question than that, do we have too many Classic WoW versions? Because Anniversary, you would guess, is cannibalizing of SOD or vice versa, or Vanilla is cannibalizing of Cataclysm. Well, we're gonna take a look at all that. And we are gonna start with Cataclysm. We've seen this graph long before, and to Cataclysm's credit, they have been holding pretty steady. As you guys know, Dragon Soul is coming out, well, in like 2-3 days, March 18th. So there is one last patch of Cataclysm you might wanna play there before it goes into stagnation. I do not hate Dragon Soul. I thought Dragon Soul was a decent raid. Maybe not my first choice, but the reason people hated it is because it lasted like 2 freaking years. Having that said, Cataclysm stayed steady at around 100,000 players. Right now they are clocking at about 120,000, and most expectably we're gonna see a little bit of a spike on Dragon Soul, or the people that wanna check it out, obviously. And even though by far Cataclysm has been the biggest, I wouldn't wanna say failure, because Blizzard knows how to make money out of this stuff, but it has been the least successful version of Classic so far, going at 120,000 ever since, let's see, pretty much November, October. I do not foresee Dragon Soul reviving Cataclysm and bringing us to a golden era, but hey, if you enjoy the retail raiding and you wanna get a character ready for Pandaria, you might as well. One thing that you gotta remember is that this doesn't mean there is 120,000 actual players. As a matter of fact, ever since they bundled the GDKPs in Anniversary and SOD, the main thing, the backbone of Cataclysm as a community is GDKPs. There are very few non-GDKP raids in Cataclysm, at least in the Pogging world. Normal guilds, of course, still exist, and my estimation is that at least half of the players that are listed in Ironforge Pro are alts. After you get past all the grind at the start of Cataclysm and you get into the GDKP train, once you get a little bit of money from the previous GDKPs, it is very easy to just spin out more and more characters and keep them going. You just funnel money from a geared character into a less geared character, and yeah, I know several people that do well over 5 GDKPs a week. It is not even a crazy number anymore. That is not something that's very common in something like Anniversary, where GDKPs are not common. In Era, you could say yes, there is plenty of old raids. I would even say SOD, even though it is fairly easy to get 2 characters going, most people do not play alts. Because the thing about GDKPs, and this has been a thing that I grappled with people, especially streamers, other streamers, GDKPs give you an incentive to make as many characters as possible. The best way to get a character geared out, your main character, is to run as many crappy characters as possible and just feed off the other GDKPs to give that money to your main so you can spend it on your main. I do not like GDKPs because I think they are too good, not because they suck, but because they are so good they kill any other reason to raid normally. You would be stupid not to raid on a GDKP when they are allowed, and that's the problem. But yes, go with that expectation, Cataclysm, GDKP, or go home. There is probably about 40,000, 50,000 real actual individuals playing it, and most other raids are alts, which is plenty fine. There's plenty of people to raid. It's still 120,000 characters that raid every freaking reset, but how does it fare compared to the other classics? And that's gonna take us to SOD. Welcome to Seasonal Discovery. It's like a roller coaster that went down and it stayed where it stayed, okay? I gotta commend it, I gotta give them credit where credit is due. It is nothing short of a miracle that they held these numbers given the disaster that was Phase 3. I thought they were gonna have a really hard time recovering. By the time Phase 4, at the middle of Phase 4 ended, most people were raiding back again. They never got back to the peak before Phase 3, and that should give you a very important lesson. It's a lot easier to keep customers you have than to bring customers back. And I think that's what doomed SOD. Because in my opinion, I dare say, I thought Phase 5 was way better than Phase 4. I thought Phase 5 was way better than Phase 3. I mean, any phase is better than Phase 3. Phase 3 was absolute garbage. but people checked out. And once you check out of WoW, it is very hard to come back. No amount of catch-up mechanics, no amount of, oh, you get free gear and you get instantly into the raid, no amount of that is gonna change the fact that picking up a new WoW character or an old WoW character that you haven't checked in a while, I don't know how to call it. It is an emotional investment. It is very hard to care again for your character once you leave it. That would be a very cool video to make, the psychology of WoW characters. However, Season of Discovery right now is clocking at 77,000 players, which is not that far off from Phase 5, 88,000, or Phase 4 peak, which was 88,000 again. As you can see, Phase 5 kept the same player base as Phase 4, which in my opinion was a huge achievement. Once again, I still believe that Phase 5 was amazing. Of course, there was a big dip in here with Anquirash because people hate AQ, and so AQ was not very creative at all. There was a change of plans in the Blizzard team, well, Blizzard the company, during this entire shuffle. They were like, oh, we're gonna do Classic Plus, we're not gonna work on Sword, and they were like, oh, we are like 3 years away from Classic Plus, we gotta do something in between or people are gonna die. And then they did like some content, they promised people, they did something for Nax Ramas and they got people back. Once again, there is a universe where if they worked a little harder on AQ40, we could have gotten a bigger peak during Nax Ramas. We could have gotten all the way back to 100,000 players again. Another thing you gotta consider is, like what I said earlier, during the course of an expansion, people over time keep picking up new characters. People that raided on one character over here maybe got like 2 characters later because they got more time, and once you get to 60 and you do not have to level anymore, eventually all the characters get to end game and they raid. The characters in here may very well be like 80% of them raiding in Nax and 20% doing like Sol Gorob or something. It doesn't matter. Like if you raid on an alt and you only do Sol Gorob or AQ20, it still counts. So the actual population went down even further than 10,000 players from Phase 5 to Phase 7, which is not a surprise. Is SOD dead? No, absolutely not. If anything, I think SOD, even though it is quite smaller than Cataclysm, is a lot easier to get into. There is very few barriers to entry on SOD. You got a character, you got a bunch of ways, tokens, dailies, whatever to get gear to be decent in raids. There is always new people. Easy mode raids are pretty easy, so a POG is gonna be willing to take you even if you are not very good. In Cataclysm, if you're bad, that may very well kill the raid, especially on 10-man. That is not something that happens in SOD. Given the fact that you can take extra people to the raid because we complained hard enough that they changed their minds on it again, that entire thing was broken. I am glad they changed their mind. And once again, why did we want the limit of players to go up again? Because of this. If you're gonna take 5 people extra than you need anyway, you might as well take a random noob that you like or that is a friend of yours or whatever. It's not a big deal. That's why I kinda lament the terrible state that SOD is in content-wise, and I hope that Phase 8 is gonna be very good because I really love the approach of SOD. Zero commitment raiding where 30 idiots can have fun and they can still kill the boss. That's my game. That's the game I used to play in private servers before it was all about the parses. We were 40 idiots wiping on Ragnaros for 3 hours. It was awesome. That's a topic for another video, but SOD is probably my ideal vision of Classic, even though it was poorly executed. And I am gonna go back for Phase 8 for a while. We're gonna see what happens. Here's the kicker. How many of the people that are missing from Phase 5 to Phase 8 were gone because of Anniversary? Now, contrary to popular belief, I do not think Anniversary is cannibalizing off of Season of Discovery as much because you can keep raiding on both. Season of Discovery is pretty much raid log after you get to a certain point, and Vanilla can be pretty raid loggy if you got gold. And let's be honest, a lot of people buy freaking gold. Was it last year that a Blizzard employee got leaked saying that about 30% of the Vanilla raiders buy gold in Era? That's not a crazy number, that I believe it. And Anniversary, over time people kept hitting level 60, then came the alts, and we are close to Blackwing Lair coming 20th, 2 days after the Cataclysm raid, because we got so many versions of Classic that every version of Classic is ruining each other's launches. We are looking at 93,000 players, 93,700. This is on a 1x server with many barriers of entry. It's gonna take you several weeks to get to level 60 alone, not to mention on the previous grind, which is a lot harder than in Sword. I wouldn't say Cataclysm. Cataclysm, the pre-raid beast grind is way harder, especially getting caught up to now. But 93,700 players is a pretty freaking impressive number. And most likely, Anniversary has taken over Cataclysm in the amount of real players. I don't want to say real players, okay? I mean individual unique players. Even though the number of characters is lower, I am almost certain that Anniversary has more actual players than Cataclysm. One thing that you may want to look at, because I thought it was really funny if you look at the US servers, the faction balance is getting screwed. Now the big server, which was usually an Alliance favored server, is now getting taken over by the Horde. Spine Shatter in Europe is like 52% Horde, and you might think, how could that be if you get locked out of creating characters? Well, that means that the Alliance quit and there is no new Alliance characters being made, and of course you cannot make a new character in the Horde, so the Horde is locked out entirely. I thought it's really funny to look that vanilla servers are stronger on the Horde than in the Alliance. That is not usually the case, and my guess is that most people are preparing for TBC, and in TBC there is no question the Horde is stronger than the Alliance because they got the better racials and Paladins. Paladins are the one thing that makes the Alliance better in vanilla, so I think it's that people preparing for TBC that is mixing the balance. I'm not sure, I just thought it was really funny. Overall, none of these numbers are what I would call concerning. I would say if you're on the smaller regions, Australia got screwed. The server merge thing is really sad, okay? I have sympathy for the Australian players because I play on 220 latency all my life. There is no Latin American server. And if the player base keeps getting diluted with every new version of Classic that gets thrown into the mix, we are never gonna get regional servers. And I am not playing retail on a freaking US server, okay? You cannot do Mythic Plus on 220 ping. I am not gonna try. I got a different question for you. What are you playing? More specifically, I wanna gauge from you how many of you play separate modes of Classic. How many of you raid on Sword and Anniversary, for example, or Cataclysm and Sword or whatever. I am very much interested in taking a look at the overlap. If I'm gonna give you a guess, and I don't know if that's gonna be the accurate guess, I bet you a lot of people that play Cataclysm do not play Sword. They probably play Anniversary, maybe, but not Sword, because I think Cataclysm and Sword satisfy a very similar niche. Am I wrong here? But you should tell me right after you subscribe, join the Discord, and thank you for watching.